Hi, my name is Katterina Sparrer, and I'm the Senior Manager of Global Brand Communications at Ascendion. And today I'm looking forward to my conversation with Deepak Pol about taking AI the last mile. Deepak, thanks for joining me today. Could you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thank you for inviting me, Katterina. My role here is as a CTO of Markets for Ascendion. I'm responsible for working with our clients in their large transformations towards their AI journey. And I work with them from the sales initial process, then when we start the conversation, consulting, advising, and ultimately actually executing the process for them.
And so let's get right into my questions. So
Absolutely.
what are the top 3 questions you're hearing in the market right now around AI? And what's the one you wish more people were asking?
Yeah, interesting question. AI is evolving. Everybody's starting to adopt. Some of them are getting some wins, some of them are struggling. So the top 3 questions, hey, what tool is the best in the market I can use, right? Or some of them have chosen some tools and they basically ask us to compare. How do you compare or evaluate this tool against the other tool? The second question I hear is, what can I change? Where can I implement AI so that I can get immediate ROI? Can I get early wins? And the third, very recently I started hearing about is, where can I cut my costs? Because it's sprawling, right? And everybody's costs are just growing, whereas it was supposed to be completely otherwise. Now, if you look at these questions, in isolation, they are very valid, fair questions, okay? You want to show a quick ROI, you want to show quick wins, so that there is a business case made for your organization to start implementing the journey. It is very important for you to be conscious about your costs. At the same time, it's not a simple answer. You should not be cutting costs just because, right? It should be a very controlled cut of costs so that you're not cutting the value that AI delivers to people. That's why, in my opinion, the question people should be asking as leaders is the question about what it means for the enterprise, right? Considering enterprise as a persona. And the question should be, how can I redesign my organization? How can I redesign my workflows and processes to involve AI in it so that I can get the best benefit of AI for my organization at the optimal cost? That is the ROI equation. And that's the question they should be asking for the enterprise, not for individual teams, not for individuals, and not from themselves. So I think that paves the way into the right way of adopting AI.
That is an excellent question to ask. So the next one is, what's the biggest mistake you see leaders making with AI right now? And what does it take to get it right?
The constant pattern I see is everybody's excited about AI. So they should be, but ultimately it always comes down to, for them, the technology selection problem. The second thing they're doing is also, they're measuring the success on either a gut feel, or they give a technology or piece of technology to their teams and look at the spot success or spot failures as the way to measure the technology. What is that making happen is that, first of all, they either get a fragmented gut feel. There are teams that are saying, yay, they win, right? I recently came across a research which says the developers who are saying that they have got 20% improvement using AI in their day-to-day activities, actually, if you measure it, they are 19% less efficient. Why, you'd ask? Because they feel they're getting a lot of good output out of AI, but then there is rework and there is a lot of other peripheral work that they're getting into, which ultimately reduces their efficiencies. On the other hand, there are people who just become naysayers immediately, right? Because they are not able to utilize these technologies properly. And I think that's the mistake when you're getting into AI adoption for your organizations. Instead, in my opinion, what they should be focused on is, and by the way, this is going to sound very boring, but apply basic software engineering to the adoption of AI. Because it has always worked, right? Any new industry revolution that has came in, the basic software engineering has put hold. And how do you apply the basic software engineering is by adopting an operating model that works for your organization. The problem is that not a lot of people understand what the operating model for AI is supposed to be, or how to execute on that. So I'm going to leave you with a simple 4 principles that they should be adopting. And that is what we expand into a real operating model for the organization. The first one is the agentic processes. And that's where a scattered pilot or POC does not help, because ultimately, if you're not converting into an agentic process, which is being used by different teams to deliver the same consistent output, it's not going to be helpful at all. So the focus should be building this agentic processes that are getting reused and delivering consistent outputs. You don't want the same team to be rediscovering and reinventing how to deliver test automation, for example, using AI, right?
Mhm.
What they should be focusing on is that they design these agentic processes, and at the same time, they contextualize them. We call it context engineering, which is one of the biggest improvements AI adoption has made in the industry today. So they should be also contextualizing or building the context engineering around these agentic processes so that the teams are able to reuse these processes. The other one is the orchestration and integration. And many times when orchestration as a term is used, it's used for agentic orchestration. You're orchestrating a multi-agentic system or workflow with each other. But when I say orchestration, it means not only that, but orchestrating it with your SDLC tool, orchestrating it with your other agentic tools. Something that the leaders must assume that they are always going to be dealing with multi-platform ecosystem or multi-technology ecosystem, multi-LLM ecosystem. Once you assume that, it becomes inherent that you define your orchestration or integration that includes these two tools together. These tools coexist and deliver the output together. So anything you're thinking about using these technologies as isolation is not taking you anywhere. Only when the orchestration works across is when you can be successful in your adoption. The third thing they should be working on, this is very critical, is they're conscious about the cost involved in it, the investment that is involved in it. And when you're doing this first and second thing that I just mentioned, it is possible for you to say, I have these multiple models, and you use something called model routing to use different models for different tasks. Mm-hmm. You don't want the most expensive, the front-leading frontier model to do a simple task like summarization or classification. These are simple tasks that you should be using a previous version, a fast-paced but smaller model to perform, rather than the most complex model or most advanced model. That makes your process efficient, that cuts down your cost, and this is something that has to be built into this agentic process. So being conscious about your token usage, how you design this process is very important. The third piece is governance. None of this is going to work without people. So what are the new roles that are shaping up in your organization as you prepare yourself to adopt AI? Those roles are not going to be the same roles that you had before. What is the skills that your teams need to have? They are going to differ, right? And you have to train your teams. So the people aspect and the change management is very important. The second thing is what your agentic tools are getting is as inputs, what are they delivering as outputs, and what is the traceability in between? What are the decisions they are making? How are you responsible for auditing these tools that are performing? And how are you guardrailing their, what they're doing? That is also a big aspect of governance that has to be built in and baked into your processes. Having an RBAC model or authorization model in terms of who are creating these agents, which agents are getting published and reused in your organization, having some control over that, or rather full control over that, is also a very important part of the governance. And finally, the measurability has to be also part of the operating model. Unless you are able to measure what is the adoption percentage, what is the productivity boost, and what the cost for your pay, that is my ROI calculus. Unless that is measured as part of your regular process, it's always going to stay as a gut feel, right? And you'll never feel confident in the outputs.
That's excellent. Thank you. It's very good information to have for leaders. My next question is, AI often looks impressive in a demo, but falls apart in the real world. So what makes that gap difficult to close?
The AI technology and capability and maturity is really advanced today. So it's not at all a surprise when you see a very good demo delivering a very good value, because they're not lying. The demos are not lying, okay? Yeah. And the technology is already good enough to produce really good output and you create a very good demo. The problem comes, I'll go back to the operating model, is when you have a team working on a proof of concept or a pilot that creates a very nice demo, but then they get success through that POC or pilot, and it never scales up. The second problem happens where these teams are your architects, your best of the people. They quickly get into something next fancier, another fancy tool or another fancy POC, and this gets left behind. So when it comes to transferring the demo knowledge or transferring the demo into real production use case with another team that adopts it, the context is lost. They have not gone through this process of discovering that tool. And that scale fails, the transfer fails. And that is where the organizations are seeing the gaps where 95% of the POCs are not seeing the light of the production, because that's where the failure is happening. So it's not the technology problem. And I actually seen the organizations get into seeing that as a tool problem or a technology problem, and they get into a cycle of selecting another tool to do the same thing, which is a vicious cycle. You'll never get out of it if you're just following your tail. So I think that's where the fall is happening, where after the great demo, you're not able to scale it.
That makes sense. And how can businesses turn early AI wins into lasting impact?
By no way I'm saying that this whole operating model has to be a pre-designed process, a large investment goes into it, you sit on it for a year and then come back to actually implementing the pilot, okay? That's not the goal. That is the North Star. What is important is that you are driving everything as a stepping stone towards that, and everything you're doing in a smaller scope is driving towards that. What that means is that you choose the use cases that are going to be able to scale to larger teams. If you're doing a pilot, it's fine, but those pilots have to be redesigned for what outcomes they're supposed to deliver. How can they be scaled beyond the teams that are doing the pilot? What technologies and tools and the standards that implement, how can they be transferable? So when you define this, they become a stepping stone into the larger goal than a scattered pilot. You need to define those smaller wins, but that take you in the direction where it allows you to achieve that larger goal of creating an operating model that is validated by the organization. And then you go through the normal steps of going through a smaller pilot, then expanding it to 3-4 teams, and then actually going at enterprise level. And that knowledge translates rather than having pieces of efforts everywhere happening. You just make sure that you have the North Star defined or larger goal for your enterprise defined and walk towards it in smaller steps rather than just trying to go everywhere as a segregated organization.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, those are all the questions I have for you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Katterina.